What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, the brother, Robert Mason, coming through once again with a donation to the channel via the PayPal. He says, "Good job, Too Raw." And he, talking about Bush Van Brenikoff, the coach, never coached again in the NBA. Jack Kent Cooke fired his ass after that debacle in 1969. For a sports talk show host, talking about Stephen A. Smith, he don't know shit about the history of sports. Yep. That point he made about Wilt and choking in the finals and quitting. I get so tired of that. That's so untrue. He did not quit. Wilt was a guy that never fouled out an NBA game. He averaged 45 minutes a night. He worked his ass off on both ends of the floor. And he was never was he a quitter. The guy came back from an injury, a knee injury, a devastating knee injury that still to this day ends NBA players' careers, despite us being now 55 years past when Wilt suffered that injury, as far as advancements in medicine and surgeries. Wilt came back from that injury within a span of 5 months. And that was a testament to how hardworking he was. And, to be honest with you, had the Lakers won that series against the Knicks, and everybody marvels over Willis Reed and the injury he had, it takes away a little bit from what Wilt did to come back and make it back to the season, help them go to the finals. But, nobody roots for Goliath. And still today they don't. But let's get to the point of this video, right? So I want to talk about something that kind of, it bothers me because it's one of the few areas where I think the media's misinformation campaign against Michael Jordan has had little success. And it's this notion that, A, Michael Jordan only won championships because of Scottie Pippen, and B, before Scottie Pippen, Jordan just was getting his ass whooped all the time. Getting his ass whooped and, putting up numbers, but wasn't able to lead the Bulls to victory, right? Now, of course, any NBA player, just about no matter how great they are, unless you have a great team around you, you're not going to win. But these are the facts. Okay? It's not just opinion. These are facts that I'm going to tell you. The year before Michael Jordan arrived in Chicago, the Bulls were 27-55. And not only were they not winning, they couldn't draw flies. I think the traveling circus were drawing more tickets than Bulls games on average, right? In comes Michael Jordan. Now, this has to be mentioned too. When Michael Jordan was drafted and he promised to bring championships to Chicago, the vast majority of the media laughed at that. They laughed at that because, number one, Chicago, for the most part, had been a middling, except for the 70s, that little high water period with Jerry Sloan and, Nick Barwinkle and Nate Thurman and Norm Van Leer, Chet Walker, that period of time. Outside that little period of time, for the most part, the Bulls were a middling to horrible franchise. Also, and this gets forgotten, when Michael Jordan was drafted in 1984, he was not a LeBron-level height player. Kareem, no. He was projected to be something like a Jerry Stackhouse sort of Michael Finley type player, a contributor player to a great team, but not a player that you would build a franchise around. And at that point in time, the general consensus was that if you wanted to win a championship, you had to build a championship team around the center, right? Hence why Portland, having the second seed 84 draft, decided to draft Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan because of the general belief at the time that it was more important to have a quality big man than a good shooting guard. Now, Michael Jordan wound up being a historically great shooting guard that overperformed in a manner that no one expected. As a matter of fact, through Christmas, I think of 84, Jordan was averaging around 24 points a night. And from January to April of 85, rest of the season, Mike averaged over 30 points a night. And for the season, he averaged 28 points a night. The Bulls increased their win total by over 11, to 38 and 44. So that season was seen as a success. Not only was Michael Jordan individually unstoppable, it was translating to victories because they won 11 more games. Now, his next year, unfortunately, he suffers the injury that causes him to miss 64 games. Now, in the 64 games that he missed, the Bulls go 21 and 43, losing twice as many games as they won. But in the 18 games that they won, the Bulls go 9 and 9, which is a 500 record, which kind of indicates, although a small sample size, that had Jordan not gotten hurt, the Bulls probably would have finished with maybe 40, maybe somewhere around 42, 43, 44 wins, maybe. Be as it may, the Eastern Conference was very top heavy that year with the Sixers and, you know what I'm saying, the Celtics reigning supreme and everybody else pretty much at the bottom. The Bulls were able to eke out a playoff berth with 30 wins, and we all know what Michael Jordan did in that first round series. Individually, he was brilliant, scoring 49 points in the first game and a playoff record 63 points in game 2. Okay? But they were not able to beat the greatest team in Celtics history, the 1985-86 Celtics that went on to win a championship, right? But somehow, revisionist history would tell you that somehow he was supposed to have beaten a Celtic team that was at its apex in the 80s. I don't understand that. I don't understand when that started, but, you know, it's crazy. 87 rolls around. The Bulls lose some offensive firepower. They lose George Gervin. I think he goes over to Italy. They lost Orlando Woolridge, who was the only other guy consistently putting up 20 points a night for Chicago. And their leading scorer outside of Michael Jordan becomes, I think, Charles Oakley, who is not a big-time scorer. So under new coach Doug Collins, Jordan's let loose to average over 37 points a night. So Jordan is putting on a historic tear as far as being a perimeter player is concerned. And the Bulls go, I think, 40 and 42 that year, which is 2 wins more than Jordan's rookie year. So if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, yes, the Bulls are not an elite team, but the Chicago Bulls as a whole are not an elite team. It's just Michael Jordan, really. You know, and Charles Oakley is putting up good numbers, but, you know, they don't have that secondary offensive player. At the very least, to assist the Bulls offensively. And the Bulls are in desperate need of a post player that could score. So Jordan is putting up as many points and as many shots as possible to try to offset it. But hey, nobody can do everything. And then you're starting to see the rise of the Detroit Pistons in the picture. It's a convoluted situation here. So, I mean, what do you really expect from Chicago? The very next year, 87, 88, Jordan improves his defensive effort, wins his first MVP, wins Defensive Player of the Year, and bada boom, bada bing, the Bulls win 50 games. 50 games. And for the first time in the Michael Jordan era, they make it out of the first round of the playoffs, only to lose the Detroit Pistons, who I just mentioned, in the semis. But it's once again an improvement, right? Although I think they lost to the Pistons 4-1 in the semifinals. 88-89 season. Now, the Bulls do dip a bit from 50 wins to 47, right? But I think it could be argued that the Eastern Conference was becoming a little bit more competitive now because you not only do you still have the Boston Celtics around, although I think Bird was hurt that year, but you also still have the new look Sixers team with Charles Barkley. You have, the Pistons now reigning supreme. You have the rise of the Cavaliers too. The Cleveland Cavaliers are there, and you have the rise of the Atlanta Hawks. So there's a little bit more competition in the Eastern Conference and in the Western Conference. Not just the Lakers and Celtics anymore. You have Stockton and Malone doing their thing. You still have Alex English in Denver. You have the rise of that team with Phoenix before Charles Barkley got there, when it was Tom Chambers and Jeff Hornacek, I think. And who else did I think? A very, very young KJ, explosive KJ. You know, so the young Sonics team. So not only that, Jordan's still putting up historic numbers as a guard, but more importantly, the Bulls in 88-89 make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. The conference finals. As a matter of fact, they're the only team to beat the Detroit Pistons, the 63-19 Pistons, in the playoffs. Every other team, the Celtics, the Bucks, and in the finals, Lakers, the Pistons swept. But the Bulls, despite the creation of the Jordan rules, were still able to get 2 victories against the Detroit Pistons. So when you look at it, 47-35 record, conference finals appearance, relatively good short. So it's another successful season. And then 89-90. 89-90. The Bulls win 55 games that year, which I think ties the franchise record. If I'm not mistaken, I think it ties the franchise record for most wins. I might be a little off of that, but it's definitely the most wins they had in the Michael Jordan era thus far. We start definitely seeing a development of Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant by this period of time, at least as far as a production purpose now, a perspective. Now, they still maybe not quite where they should be at from an emotional standpoint as far as experience is concerned and how they react to certain situations, but they're definitely developing as players. So Jordan is getting that secondary help, and Phil Jackson's the head coach at this point in time, right? Michael Jordan that year, I think 33 points, 33.6 points a game, well over 6 rebounds. I think he averaged like maybe 5 or 6 assists that year. I think close to 3 steals a night. I mean, he's a remarkable player, right? I think he won his second steal title that year too. And the Bulls make it to the conference finals again, and this time they go 7 games with the defending NBA champions. So this is a season where, despite the crushing defense of the bad boy Pistons, despite the Jordan rules, the Chicago Bulls, who on paper are not as talented as the Portland Trailblazers, are giving the defending NBA champions a lot more pushback than Portland did in the finals. As a matter of fact, had it not been for Scottie Pippen's migraine headache, the Bulls may have upset Detroit at Auburn Hills in that year. And then the next year, after a very disappointing 0-3 start, the Bulls win a franchise record 61 games, and the rest is history. So when you look at the history of all this, right, when you look at each year, it's not like Michael Jordan and the Bulls had these disappointing years where the expectations were they're going to win a championship or they're going to go to the finals and they fall flat on their ass. See, there were years when LeBron James and the Cavaliers were expected to go to the finals, like in 2009 and 2010, and it didn't happen. Whether it's, Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic breaking up what was supposed to be the coronation of King LeBron I, or whether in 2010 when the Boston Celtics made LeBron James quit on his franchise, and you have the media come and clean everything up and revise history and make all these excuses for him. Jordan never had that. Now, the closest thing I think you can make for a disappointment as far as Jordan is concerned is 95. But that was on us. That was on us. We still felt like we had watched greatness for so long that we refused to believe that Michael Jordan was human. We believed that Jordan could just come back after 18 months, away from the game and lead the Chicago Bulls to the promised land. We felt like he could do it because Michael Jordan could do what other people couldn't do. So that's the closest thing I would say that was a disappointment. What happened? He spent the whole summer getting ready, practicing with fellow NBA players, shaking and knocking the rust off, you know what I'm saying, tweaking a few things, and another three-peat. So, yeah, I just want to do this video because I just get a little irritated at this misconception that Jordan was a disappointment or a loser before Scottie Pippen in the 90s. That's just so BS, man. Anyway, what you guys think?